It's 2 a.m. and I'm falling asleep, but I'm less than 100 pages away from the end. And it's still a 5-star book. This better end well because the excitement I'm feeling over this book, I feel like I haven't felt that in a while. It's almost 3 a.m. I just couldn't put the book down. And now I have less than 50 pages left, but I need to get some sleep. So I'm going to bed. Rain sounds and light. Okay, it is 10:49. I'm finally up, very tired. I have my cheese and fruit box, and I'm gonna start reading. Five stars and a new favorite book. Also, the last 2 lines made me laugh out loud. It was really good. And I want to watch the movie now. It's gonna be adorable. I can't wait. So I was looking on Goodreads to see if anyone else I follow on there gave this 5 stars. And the closest was 4.5, which obviously isn't a bad rating. One of the complaints I saw is that it had too abrupt of an ending. And the thing is, when you're dealing with a slow burn romance, and the book is in letter form, it's a hard thing to do because you're seeing the love story through Juliet's letters to her friends outside of Guernsey Island. It doesn't play out at the same pace. So when they actually get together, her and, I don't know how you pronounce his name, I'll find out in the movie. Dozy or Dossie? Dozy reminds me of Gilmore Girls. Dossie? Dozy? Dossie? One of those. When they get together, it's actually in note form because Isola? However you say her name, she's taking observational notes because she's been told that she's a lot like Miss Marple. So she wants to be a detective now. She's taking notes thinking he's in love with someone else, but the stuff that she's going through in his house to find out if he's in love with this girl Remy, it all obviously points to Juliet, but she's so oblivious. It's actually really funny. She's taking notes, and then she tells Juliet, oh, I failed my mission and this is why and what I found. And it's obvious to Juliet. She goes to Dossie and asks him to marry her. And Isola knows because she's standing outside the house. She followed her. And she's like, oh, I'm stupid. Duh. And he is a very shy guy. And her asking him to marry him, he's like, oh my god, yes. Like, he's relieved. That's how they get together. And then Juliet is writing her best friend Sydney to come to the wedding. And she's just gushing about it. And then the last line, which is hilarious. But I don't know if I should show it to you because it doesn't really make sense if you've never read the book. But anyways, to me it made sense. I don't know, it didn't feel abrupt at all. It felt perfect to me. And I get that not everyone's gonna like it. Totally understand. You can have your opinions, but you're wrong. Another cool thing about this book is that it looks at some heavy subject matter because the whole point of Juliet eventually visiting Guernsey is that instead of just writing an article about their book club while being occupied by Germany, she decides this is really its own book. So she goes there to research for a book about the German occupation of Guernsey. The love story is just this background, you know? It's just there. But there's like little hints of it because at first he writes to her in England. It's out of the blue. He got her name and address from a book. Then they meet each other. They're getting to know each other. And then her friends notice that he's in her letters a lot. And it just builds, oh my god, it's beautiful. It's like a very serious story, serious subject matter, the aftermath of World War II, and just sort of coming to terms with what happened to different people. Everyone had a different sort of personal experience, but just this like beautiful romance blooming from all of that slowly. And then at the end, it's like an explosion, and I love that. An explosion after a slow burn. I loved it. Oh my gosh, I'm gushing. I know I'm going on and on and on. I just loved it so much. I'm going to read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd and try to finish it during the baseball game. And then as soon as it's done, I am in the bath and I'm watching the movie on Netflix. That's the plan.
Bowser down the line, backhanded by Chapman. Across the diamond goes the throw. There's the first down of the ball game. And when he's on his game, he'll get a lot of ground balls. And Chapman will be very busy over at third base. Sean Manai on the mound. Uncharacteristic error committed by Chapman last night, but he also made a fantastic play in that extra inning, the top of the 10th, when Shohei tried to advance from second to third.
When I have finished writing, I shall enclose this whole manuscript in an envelope and address it to Poirot. And then, what shall it be? Veronal? There would be a kind of poetic justice. Not that I take any responsibility for Mrs. Ferrer's death. It was the direct consequence of her own actions. I feel no pity for her. I have no pity for myself either. So, let it be Veronal. But I wish Hercule Poirot had never retired from work and come here to grow vegetable marrows. We hope you have enjoyed The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, text copyright 1926, Agatha Christie Limited. Production copyright 2002, HarperCollins Publishers Limited.
This book, I was a little confused because I always enjoy Agatha Christie's writing, but it wasn't blowing me away. And then it went from 4 stars to 5 stars in the last 7 pages. That's all it took. Every time I doubt the Queen of Mystery, she pulls through. Honestly, 3 5-star books in one readathon? That's pretty good. That isn't really normal, so I'm feeling good, especially because I had a horrible slump before this week. Now that I'm done with my 7th book, I've completed all the challenges. I guess this means I don't have to do a day 7 vlog, but I might do one anyways because I might just pick up another book just to participate in the last live sprint with Ariel and Raylene on Instagram, and also their last sprint on Twitter. I'll figure that out later. The point is, I'm done with this book way later than I expected. I think it's almost 8 o'clock. Yeah, whatever. That means it's time to take a bath and watch the Guernsey movie on Netflix. And I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, I can barely contain myself. It's all I've wanted to do for 2 days, and it's finally time. It is 10:30. Just got out of the bath. Just finished the movie. I liked it. There were some changes I didn't like, but overall, the movie was good. The romance was great. My first intuition about the chemistry between the 2 lead actors, Michael, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Michiel. I know he's Dutch. I don't know if you pronounce that differently, but Michael and Lily James. Wow, their chemistry. They had a slow burn romance, just like the book. But like every time they're in a scene together, you're just like, is it hot in here? There's no touching really or anything. It's just like the chemistry and the looks, and you just know they're in love, but like no one's saying anything. Oh, it's great. The first thing that really caught me off guard was the character of Amelia. In the book, most of the members of the literary society write to Juliet before she comes. Obviously, in movie form, letters aren't the same. You're hearing them, not reading them. So the only letters you hear are a couple letters between Darcy and Juliet, and then she visits. In the book, when she's on Guernsey, you're never reading from the perspective of her, like, this is day 1, this is what she's doing, these are her interactions interactions. You're just reading through her letters to people in her circle about what she's doing on Guernsey. In a movie, it's obviously going to be different, so that's not a big deal. But in the book, Amelia, one of the older members of the society, is really sweet from the get-go, a motherly figure. In the movie, of course, there's no letters. Juliet comes to the island and Amelia is cold at first. It was kind of jarring because I was just picturing this really kind, motherly type character. Obviously, once she warms up and more of the story is revealed, she's a great character, much more what I expected. But I don't know if I would have gone that direction. I just don't understand why she had to be cold. It could have just been to add a little more drama, because the unseen character of Jane is Amelia's daughter, not Eben's daughter. It talks about how Amelia loses her daughter during the war. Elizabeth is kind of like her second daughter. It's even more of an intimate connection than the book, even though they're obviously dear friends in the book. So I think that could be part of the coldness. She's lost Jane and then she loses Elizabeth, and this stranger shows up and is asking questions. I get all that, but the way it was presented in the book, I think I prefer that. The second thing I did not like was Juliet's storyline with Mark, who is her boyfriend in London. They actually get engaged in the movie. In the book, she never says yes to him, and then when he finally comes to Guernsey, he has a real attitude and she tells him to get lost, and it's great. In the movie, they're engaged, but she feels weird wearing this rock all over the island, so she doesn't wear it, and she keeps putting off coming home, and he gets annoyed and visits Guernsey. They have a fight, but then they make up. She leaves with him, and then she breaks up with him in London, and then she goes back to Guernsey. In the book, she keeps putting off his proposal because I think that she's listening to her heart. She knows that even though she wants to be married, in the back of her head she knows this isn't the guy. And then when she goes to Guernsey, she loves it so much, and she never goes back to London. She just puts down roots and embraces island life. She's also more of a caretaker for Kit, because in the book, Kit, who is Elizabeth's daughter, is passed around between the society members. Now, I don't mind the story in the movie where Darcy is her father, because that's who Elizabeth left her with. He starts to really trust Juliet to watch her. That whole thing, I don't mind that. It was just more the fact that she doesn't kick Mark to the curb when she does in the book. She actually says yes to him, and she actually leaves Guernsey. I don't know, that was a weird change for me. It was cute how she breaks up with Mark and then she's leaving London to go back to Guernsey, and Darcy, after she sends a letter to the society with the manuscript she wrote, he comes after her and comes to London. She sees him when she gets on the boat and runs back. That's where she asks him to marry her because she loves him, and he's like, oh my gosh, yes. And they kiss. That part's really sweet. It's just that I love that she never left Guernsey in the book. The final scene in the movie, I swear, it is one of the, dare I say, hottest scenes ever. So she comes out of the cottage that Elizabeth used to live in. When she was going back to Guernsey, she had it in her head that she was going to restore the cottage and live there. She's coming out of the door, and you can catch a glimpse of the ring on her finger after the proposal, of course. She's married. Darcy is laying on a blanket reading a Charles Lamb book to Kit. Charles Lamb is the author that brought them together, and now he's reading it to their adopted daughter. She walks over, lays down next to him on the blanket. They put their hands together. He kisses her hand, and then she puts her arm around his neck. Just the way they're looking at each other. It's good. It's really good. They are an anchor that pulled me in every scene they had together. Amazing. I'm almost tempted to watch it again, honestly. But maybe I'll just settle for a YouTube video with a compilation of their scenes. I haven't felt like a fangirl in so long. I ship Darcy and Juliet. I love Darcy. He's a new book boyfriend. Why aren't we talking about him more? Why? In the credits, there's no scene, but the audio is different Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society sessions. You're hearing them read from books, you're hearing them debate, you're hearing the alarm go off that they use to time each other the whole time the credits are rolling. This is what you're hearing. And I really loved that. That was a nice touch. Just looked it up. The actor's name is pronounced Michiel Huisman. Dutch, not Michael, Michiel. Also, I think I forgot to mention it. The other name I had a problem with in the book, it's Isola. Which brings me to another part. I really liked the mean character who's like uber religious and annoying. Juliet leaves her house, which is like a inn. She rents out rooms, which is different from the book, but not a bad change. She leaves because she catches her snooping and she doesn't feel safe. She goes to Isola's house. And I love that they become roommates and it spotlights a bit of their blooming friendship. I also really love the character, Isola. She's like a Luna Lovegood character and it's great. She's quirky and her mannerisms, she cracks me up. I love it. Her dramatic readings and just drama in general during these society meetings, it's great. I love her so much. Aside from not liking the tone of Amelia's character in the beginning, she's a great character later on. It's much more what I felt she was like in the book. Eben is a sweet character from the get-go. His grandson is great. Who am I forgetting? Also like the character of Elizabeth, what they show. It's obviously hard subject matter, dealing with World War II and Nazis, concentration camps, German occupation. It's heavy, but the story of Elizabeth is great. I think it's interesting that the father of her daughter Kit is actually a German. This man, I'm forgetting his name. He's different and he demonstrates that. Sadly, he's caught sneaking somewhere that he's not supposed to be and he gets sent off before Elizabeth can tell him she's pregnant. The ship he's on gets bombed and he dies. There's a really interesting line from Amelia that says, "He ended up dead at the bottom of the ocean, just like my husband. Two men on two different sides of the war, and in death they ended up in the same place." It just makes me think about how much I hate war. Because Germany was in Europe, the European countries lived with the enemy, and that's actually a line in the movie. Juliet comes from London. She lived the war, but she talks about how Guernsey was German occupied. I think it's her publisher she's talking to. She's like, they lived with the enemy. I think it's important to read those stories and understand the effect of that, the devastation. It's just awful. I can't even imagine what would have happened if Germany had somehow found their way to the US or attempted to get here. Obviously, this is a fictional story, but it's coming from a very real place, inspired by very real experiences. I think that's why I loved the book so much. There's just a lot to it. There's a sweet romance to gush over as a fangirl, but there's also serious stories that make you think. I just really, really liked it, and I'll definitely be rereading it in the future, and I'll definitely be rewatching the movie. I'm thinking maybe I should show you 2 Dossie and Juliet scenes. I think that'll really amp up this Reading Rush vlog. What do you think?
Such a small thing. Just a book. Yet it's brought me all this way. them kids in her room, sleeping.
Thank you for watching her.
We had a lovely time.
She's fond of you.
They best get back.
Hermia first awoke, and finding her lost Lysander asleep so near her, was looking at him and wondering at his strange inconstancy. Lysander, presently opening his eyes and seeing his dear Hermia, recovered his reason, which the fairy charm had before clouded, and with his reason, his love for Hermia. And they began to talk over the adventures of the night, doubting if these things had really happened, or if they had both been dreaming the same bewildering dream.
Begin.
He was hungry, he said. It was time for lunch. Besides, he said, there's the lighthouse. We're almost there.
That's all fine and well, Amelia, but where is the story?
The narrative is not the author's primary concern, you see.
I understand that.
Never has been with Virginia Woolf.
Is it too much to ask for something to happen?
It's what's going on inside the people. It's the psychology of the people.
It's the psychology of the people going on a boat ride I slept.
Who are you?
I'm poor Ben Gunn, I am.
Were you shipwrecked?
Nay, mate.